Thank you for tuning in to the GSMC Dead Ball Sports Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. We have a great show for you today. We will be covering the Broncos' Monday Night Football victory over the Browns. We'll discuss the Lakers' recent struggle. We'll talk about Bryce Young and his resurgence out of Carolina. We'll discuss the Bills cruising past the 49ers. And make sure you stick around for the end of the show. Well, we'll react to Aziz Al-Shaair being handed his 3-game suspension for that hit on Trevor Lawrence. If you have a question during the show, we want to hear it. Your input is a big part of what makes the show successful, and we thrive on your energies and insights. Whether it's a quick comment, a thoughtful question, or an opinion you just want to share, please don't hesitate to drop in the chat. And if you want to make absolutely sure your message stands out, gets featured on the show, there's an easy way to do that. Just use the super chat button at the bottom of the chat box to send in your super chat. This guarantees that your super chat gets read on the air, and it's also a fantastic way to support our channel. We really rely on your support to keep bringing you the sports content you love, and we appreciate every bit of it. So go ahead, let us know what you're thinking. Hit that super chat button, and let's keep the show as interactive and exciting as possible. And if you prefer, you could always go to the GSMCpodcast.net to tip, donate, or leave a comment or question there. We couldn't do what we do without your amazing support, and we're so thankful to have you as part of our community. We do have to start off though with the Broncos Monday Night Football victory over the Cleveland Browns. The Denver Broncos came into this game in a good position to make a run into the playoffs with a 7-5 record, and wanted to end off. They have literally the latest bye that you could possibly have, and that is Week 14, and they wanted to enter that bye week with a 3-game. With 3 games over 500, putting them in a very good position to make the playoffs going forward. You were seeing the I don't have the exact numbers in front of me, but I believe according to ESPN FPI now, they have over a 90% probability to make the playoffs with that victory. They go into the bye week with anytime you go into the bye week with a win, it just changes the mojo of the team, the confidence level, the fact that this is a team that's reeled off 3 straight now since that very disappointing loss that they suffered to the Chiefs, where they got it blocked for the win. If it wasn't for that, they could potentially be 9-4 on this season. It's a great victory for them. Browns, we know what the Browns, have been this season. They've been utterly disappointing, but of late, since Jameis Winston has taken over, they're being competitive. The offense looks completely different, and I have to say, the offense looked amazing against the Broncos. I mean, what Jameis was able to do both ways, but he threw 34 of 58, 497 yards and 4 touchdowns. Jerry Jeudy completely burnt his former team, and it's not easy going up against the vaunted Denver Broncos secondary, which you could argue is one of the best secondaries in the league, and definitely one of the top 3 defenses in general in the league. What Jerry Jeudy was able to do, 9 receptions, 235 yards. And honestly, he could have had more. He had one potentially 70-yard touchdown, deep touchdown, overthrown earlier on the game, or the numbers could have been even bigger. Elijah Moore also was able to produce 8 receptions for 111 yards. The run game was solid. Jerome Ford had 4.6 yards a carry. Nick Chubb didn't do much. Nick Chubb, he's still finding his way back. The playing time's not there. He's only had 82 carries for 243 yards this season. Since he's returned, it is hard for him, especially at a running back, him being 28, his future might be in a little bit of a vulnerable position right now with the shelf life we know as a running back. But yeah, the Browns, they were able to go up and down the field and be able to get up and down the field against this Denver Broncos team. Problem is Jameis Winston, he will sling that ball. He does have the quality to go for 4 touchdowns and almost 500 yards and complete 34 balls. He has that ability. He's a gunslinger of a quarterback. The problem is he's a detrimental gunslinger, and it leads to interceptions at a alarmingly high rate. This is why he's not a quarterback for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers anymore. This is why he's not a quarterback for the Saints anymore as well. You look at his seasons, he's thrown, in terms of interception, the numbers are incredible. He came into the league, 15 interceptions. Second year had 18. Third year had 11, but only played 13 games. Then he had 19 interceptions. And then it was the crazy year in 2019 where he had 30 interceptions. He literally went 30 for 30, 33 touchdowns, 30 interceptions. And that's just the story with Jameis Winston, and why he hasn't been able to be a consistent starter at any, well, besides his entering the year as the number one overall pick. He hasn't been able to maintain a starting position since Tampa Bay moved on from him for Tom Brady. It's just the reality what we're with Jameis Winston, and yeah, he can sling that ball, and he'll make a lot of plays, but he also give the Broncos an opportunity to make plays, and he threw two pick sixes in the ball game, and in a game that you lose by 9 points, well, two pick sixes is, that's the deciding factor. He also had another interception as well, so 4 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. Yeah, he made a lot of good plays, but he also made a lot of some detrimental ones. And the Browns had the ball with an opportunity to go in and take the lead, down 1 against this Denver Broncos team. The Browns did an amazing job to stay into the game, and honestly, I thought they were unfortunate to be down at that period in the ball game, because there was a few moments that kind of went against them. I talked about earlier on that the Jameis Winston overthrow to Jerry Jeudy early on that left 7 points off the board. The Browns also had the Broncos deep in their own territory, on their own, I believe it was on their own 9-yard line or so, 3rd and long, with an opportunity to get off the field and give the Browns the ball back, only down 4 in the third quarter, earlier on in the third quarter. And what happened, instead of getting off the field, the Denver Broncos go all the way, on that 3rd and long. Bo Nix is able to hit, I believe it was Marvin Mims. Yeah, it was Marvin Mims Jr. He's able to hit him for a 90-yard touchdown, somewhere in that range, 90 yards. I forgot exactly the number. And it goes, actually, it was 90. It was a 93-yard touchdown, 94-yard touchdown. It was 3rd and 11. The Broncos were at their own 6, with an opportunity for the Browns defense to earn the Browns back for their offense in good field position. Instead of getting off the field and forcing a deep punt, Bo Nix is able to find Marvin Mims down the middle, really good throw, just past Denzel Ward's hand, and Mims is going the other way, 93-yard touchdown. And instead of now the Browns having the ball at around midfield, down 4, early on in the third, they're down 11, and those sort of plays are game changing. And yeah, combination of that with the fact that Jameis Winston airmailed Jerry Jeudy early on in the game, that it could have led to a deep touchdown for themselves. They were unfortunate to even be down late on, but through really good football from Jameis Winston and the Browns offense, and then I thought the Browns defense didn't show up to the level we expected to, but I thought there were certain key moments into the game where they made a necessary stop, whether it was getting the Broncos offense off the field or whether it was forcing a field goal instead of a touchdown. I thought there was key moments where the Browns defense, was able to make a play. They were able to pick off Bo Nix as well twice, and that also gave the Browns that late opportunity to win the game with Jameis Winston at the wheel, trying to lead a game-winning drive. Down 2, and the Browns, they have the ball a little bit less than 2 minutes remaining at the 42-yard line, and down two with a chance to drive and win the game, and Jameis Winston ends up throwing an interception. What happened? It was an out route. When you were throwing an out route, the worst thing in the world and to do when you're throwing that out route is to under throw it. To leave it inside, because if you leave it inside, you give the cornerback at that time, Jaquan McMillan, an opportunity to play the ball. Of anything, if you leave that ball outside, it's the wide receiver or nobody. When you leave it inside, you give the cornerback an opportunity to jump it. McMillan or Jaquan McMillan does exactly that, and he doesn't even get touched on his way to make that interception with Elijah Mims, going to the sideline, running his route down the sideline. He isn't able to get a touch on McMillan, and McMillan is going the other way, and the Browns don't even have an opportunity to get the defense on the field to get a stop because they had 3 timeouts. They don't, and it's a touchdown, and then they're down 2 possessions, and then the Browns had another chance. They got down the field in a quick manner through pass interference, in the end zone, and they got the ball at the 1-yard line on 1st and goal with 44 seconds left. Yes, they're down 9 points, but we saw what the Bears was able to do a few weeks ago in that situation. Get an onside kick, you never know, and if they could have just punched it in, but Jameis Winston, I guess he just didn't see Nick Bonito, the linebacker for the Denver Broncos. I guess he just didn't. Not Nick Bonito. Nick Bonito, the linebacker for the Denver Broncos. I guess he just didn't see him, and it led to an interception that I thought potentially that could have been a pick six as well. It didn't end up being a pick six, but and then things like that. Just that's the difference in why Jameis Winston has been a little bit of a journeyman at this point in his career rather than a franchise quarterback. The talent is there, immense talent is there. He just can't take care of the football at an efficient level to be a quarterback, to be a starting quarterback in the National Football. And I still think there's starting quarterbacks in the league that I think he's better than. Don't get me wrong. Like I believe there's more upside with him than the Gardner Minshews. You could argue the Will Levises, based on what we've seen from Will Levis this season. He has an opportunity. He could be a starting quarterback on a lower level team. Don't get me wrong. And in fact, I think he can elevate that team's ceiling from, instead of being like a 2-10, like the Giants. I don't think the Giants would be 2-10 if they had Jameis Winston. I think there'd be an unpredictable 5-7 team, something like that. Kind of like what he's been able to do with this Browns team. He's gave them the life. If you compare how this Cleveland Browns offense was Deshaun Watson and Jameis Winston, it is night and day. It is night and day. This offense is able to generate production. This is a Cleveland Browns offense that's now had multiple really, really good games offensively. What they were able to do against the tough defense against Baltimore, against the Steelers, what they were able to do now against the Broncos. These are good, legitimate defenses that they've been able to go up and down the field against. You looked at them with Deshaun Watson at the wheel. They had no life. You saw them at the Cowboys game, the Giants game, the Raiders game, the Commanders game, the Eagles game. They just had no life to them. This offense, the Bengals game, they had this Browns offense under Deshaun Watson had no life. They couldn't move the ball. At least with Jameis Winston, he's gonna throw the interceptions, but he gives them that belief. And I think this Browns team is a lot better than what their record was. I just think they were almost strapped into playing the Deshaun Watson, who they're paying $230 guaranteed million to. You can't just move on from him like that. You're almost cash strapped. They're still strapped. It's an interesting situation that the Browns find themselves in. I'm very interested. Obviously, they have to move on from Deshaun Watson. Who is the next quarterback? Do they bridge it with Jameis Winston until they can find that franchise quarterback, maybe look in the draft. I don't know. Do they? Well, they haven't the opportunity now. Their record is low enough to look in the draft. Well, it remains to be seen. But how can they get out of that Deshaun Watson contract? Looks like they're gonna have to just eat it. What the way Denver has been doing right now with Russell Wilson, and just take the extreme L. I mean, that is an L at the extreme level. But yeah, as far as the Denver Broncos, I think look, they are a legitimate playoff team now. They've been very, very impressive. They have a good balance of being able to run the ball offensively and then get plays from their quarterback and Bo Nix. They also have a really, really good defense, and when you have a really, really good defense, you always have a chance. They have a rookie quarterback that's shown progression throughout the season. You compare the Bo Nix we saw when he went up into Seattle in week 1, where he threw two god-awful interceptions, and he was just extremely inefficient, to what we see right now. With Bo Nix, it's two completely different players, and it was expected, when you're being coached by a coach like Sean Payton, it's going to be a journey, and you were going to learn and become more experienced. And that's exactly what we're seeing with Bo Nix. We're seeing more confidence. We're seeing the playbook open up more for him, where, earlier on when he was just getting adjusted, we saw a little bit more of his leg. Now he's trusting his arm to make those throws in the pocket. He's a much better decision maker than he was on earlier on the season. He also has the legs just in case, too. He can really move. He's not a pocket passer he's not a pocket passer. He has the legs. So, yeah, he's a really good quarterback. A really good rookie quarterback. And, I don't think they're a lock to make the playoffs. I do have to say 8-5. You're looking at it right now. The Chargers, they're probably going to get in as a wild card team. And then the Ravens, or, depending on what happens in the North. The North and the West, and the North and the Chargers. The North team that finishes second in the Chargers, I think they'll probably be the top two wildcard teams, with the fact that the Chargers also have a tiebreak over the Broncos. So I think the Broncos will be battling it for the 7th seed. But now, as the season goes on, slowly teams are getting away from that. Bengals, they've fallen off completely. Miami, they're on the outside looking in now at 5-7. At 5-7, they take on the New York Jets this week. Let's assume they get up to 6-7. The Broncos are on a bye at 8-5. The Indianapolis Colts are also on a bye. They're at 6-7. So let's assume the Dolphins beat the Jets, because let's just assume the Jets are a 3-9 ball club. That means the Dolphins and the Colts are 6-7, while the Dolphins are 8-5. Entering next week's game. The amazing thing about that, the Broncos are 8-5, while the Dolphins and Colts are going to be 6-7. The crazy thing about it is, following the bye week, the game that we get is between the Denver Broncos and the Indianapolis Colts. I'm very excited for that game. It's a 2-game difference between those two teams, but suddenly Indianapolis, they win that game. It completely changes the narrative. Indianapolis goes up to 7-7. Broncos drop to 8-6. Indianapolis has the tiebreaker advantage over the Denver Broncos as well. So if they finish with the same record, Indianapolis will have the advantage to get in, and the Broncos don't have an easy schedule down the stretch. They have the Chargers to play, a Chargers team that's up there in the playoffs. They have the Kansas City Chiefs, and who knows, the way Buffalo Bills have been playing, they're a team that is, that might be competing for that number 1 seed down the stretch. It may not be a given that Mahomes and, key players are going to be resting. Also, Cincinnati Bengals in between those two games. Look, Cincinnati is 4-8 ball club and all that, but they can still be a difficult team. They're still not a give-me, and the fact that they have to go to Cincinnati, that'll make it difficult. Also, another advantage, and then so that could completely change it up. And if Colts, not only of the fact that the Colts win that game, brings Colts give them a really good chance with the tiebreaker advantage with the Broncos, it puts Miami right back in the thick of this, despite their bad loss, because Miami, they have a relatively easy schedule. They get the Jets twice. They play the Browns. They play the Texans, who are an iffy team, and then they play the 49ers, who have also been very iffy this season. Who knows? I think Miami have an opportunity to battle in there as well. I don't guarantee it for the Broncos, but obviously they're in a pole position with the fact that they have a game and a half lead over Indianapolis, or a 2 game lead over Indianapolis, and a 2.5 game lead over the Miami Dolphins. But this is football, and the fact that the Colts and the Broncos are facing up against each other next week after the bye week, I think that is a game that is a huge game. It's a 325 game as well. Yeah, I'm looking very forward to that. Wouldn't be surprised. I don't know how the flexing rules work, but that's a game that could potentially get flexed. I wouldn't be surprised. I believe the primetime game, the Sunday night game of that week, is the Packers Seahawks. Yeah, they're not gonna flex the Packers Seahawks. Let's be honest. Yeah, no, they're not. They're not gonna flex the Packers Seahawks. But yeah, short break here coming up. When we come back, we will discuss the Lakers and their recent struggles.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign.
I wanna be the greatest. Everybody on the fake shit. I look around and feel like everybody is the fakest. I make this every day and I'm impatient, hoping one day I blow up from the basement. Statement, the top is so vacant. I don't hear shit that I think is amazing. Waiting for my day when I'm playing sold out shows for 1,000 faces. Hey, give me that crown, get in my way and to be put down. It ain't your place, all this my town. If I want that shit, then I'll get it right now. I'm losing it, the noose it fits, some losing shit, a stupid myth. You choose to live or choose to dip, you choose to fight or lose your grip and lose a gift.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind?
Before the break, we discussed the Broncos' Monday night football win over the Browns. We move on to discuss the Lakers and their recent struggles. So the Los Angeles Lakers are dropped down to the 9th seed in the Western Conference. They're 12-9. They've been struggling. Their last 10, they're 5-5. Recently, as well, in terms of the last, 5 games or so, they've really been struggling. They're 2-3, came in that stretch, and they really could be, or actually, forget that. In their last, what was it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. In their last 6 games, they've really been struggling. They're 2-4 in the last 6 games. They really could be 1-5 if it wasn't for the Will Hardy early timeout that cost the Utah Jazz a go-ahead bucket with the second remaining. The Lakers have really been struggling, and it's compounded. That storyline has been compounded behind LeBron James' recent struggles. This is a LeBron that's hasn't been great. He had that 12-point, 5 of 13 performance against the Thunder. You look at him against the Timberwolves, he was 4 of 16, and 4 of 16, and he only had 10 points as well there. We're seeing certain games that LeBron has had this season where, we just don't expect that. This 18 points against the Nuggets as well. We expect greatness on a nightly basis from LeBron, and we're just not getting that. And the Timberwolves game, the alarming thing is, for the LeBron, something that we always expect for him in the night is to be pushing 10 assists. He only had 4 assists in that game. And, we know LeBron, has improved his 3-point shooting early on. He was shooting at a ridiculous, I believe it was like 41-42% range. And for LeBron James, he's never shot at that level. But if you look at, the last couple of games now, he's really struggled from the 3-point line. 0-4 against the Timberwolves, 0-9 against the Jazz, 0-4 against OKC. I think I think he has missed the last 20 something threes or so. Something a remarkable number. One of the worst shooting slumps of his career, and yeah, he's really struggled, and hence the Lakers really struggled because the Lakers are not that very deep. When you exclude LeBron and AD and the production you get from them, you don't get much from the rest. You have an Hachimura that can give you 15 to 20 points here and there. You have a D'Angelo Russell that can go for 0 points one night and be horrible to another night. He can drop 35 out of nowhere. You have a Dalton Connect, the rookie, which he's an up and coming player. You can't expect you can expect something once in a while, but he's a rookie. He's mistaken my mind. Austin Reeves, yeah, I was gonna say AK. Austin Reeves. Again, he's been a little bit iffy as well for the last couple of seasons now. He'll give you some production here in game. He's here and there. He's a fearless, but again, you can't expect him to consistently on a night out basis give you, he's not going to give you 25 a night or anything. So the depth behind the LeBron and AD is a little bit iffy. They have a bunch of solid players, but no game changers. And JJ Redick, what he's done into this team, he's done a decent job. The way they've started off the year, if you look at it, I don't think the Lakers. I think they started off like 4-1 or something. The Lakers haven't got enough to start like that, and in a very, very long time, I have to be honest. But since then, they have a little bit dimmed. I still believe, relatively for what we've seen in the past, 12-9 start for the Lakers through 21 games is decent. I mean, we've seen the Lakers get off to some really, really bad starts, and they've been seasons where they've struggled to maintain being 500 throughout the duration of the season. And what the Lakers have done is they've been above 500 throughout the entire year, which is not something the Lakers have grown accustomed to doing over recent years. But there's still inconsistencies there because, when you don't get it. And what I think as with LeBron, not to make any excuses for him, but this is a LeBron James who is aged 39 years old. He's a few weeks now away from being 40. That didn't have a break this season. He had the NBA season where he made the playoffs, played the Western Conference first round with by the Nuggets. Got beat by the Nuggets. Had a little bit of a rest in between, but then had to play some high level, important basketball representing his country at the Olympic Games in Paris. And with the combination of the training camp and the Olympic Games, that was almost a 2 months process or so. Then you get another, month, not even month, like another few weeks or so before training camp begins, and then you're back at it again. There's not that huge of a turnaround for him to rest. And I just think maybe the wear and tear of all that basketball is just getting to him at age 39. Maybe for the next month or two, the minutes need to go down, more. Maybe he needs to play about 25 minutes a night just to get his body more, just to give his body more rest, because he didn't have that much rest in between. He is age 39, and we can expect greatness for him even at this age, what he's doing now, because what he gave us in the training camp, preseason, pre-Olympic games, and the Olympics, he gave us greatness. He was the best player on that team, and he was the worthy MVP of the Olympic Games because he was a phenomenal player, because he is still a phenomenal player. And we can expect that level from him on this Lakers team. I just think he needs that little bit more rest. I do think the 10 points and the 12 points is alarming because, we've seen slumps, especially shooting slumps from LeBron James. We've seen that, but we haven't seen games like that. At least I don't remember LeBron, only scoring 10 points in a game. I don't think that's a normal thing. This is a almost a common occurrence this season. He struggled earlier on this season against the Suns. He struggled again against the Suns a few games ago. Struggled against the Timberwolves, against the Nuggets. He wasn't that efficient as well. There's certain games that he's given us performances where I'll be alarmed. I'll be alarmed. The transition defense is still a problem, as I said earlier on. The shooting is still a problem with this Lakers team. And honestly, the shooting has been a problem with this Lakers team since LeBron has got there. They had that 1 year where they had, KCP hit some threes, Danny Green hit some threes. They had some decent three-point shooters around LeBron and AD. And turns out, well, they won a championship. Every other year that they haven't been able to get the proper shooters around LeBron, they're struggling. They're really struggling. And I think getting in some shooting will help. The Lakers have really been on a cold stretch of late in terms of three-point shooting. I was watching the game against the Timberwolves, and after the first quarter, he was getting the in-game interviews. JJ Redick was getting interviewed by one of the reporters on NBA TV, and he was saying, JJ Redick was essentially saying, we're really suffering as a team right now from the three-point line. We're not at a good moment. When you have consistent shooters, you don't go through horrible stretches like that as a team, where he's visibly frustrated at or presenting his frustration the way he is about how the shooting has not been. They've been suffering. They're in a really bad position right now. That doesn't happen when you have consistent shooters, and that's my problem. The Lakers don't have consistent shooters, and yeah, when you don't have consistent shooters, when your defense is lagging behind, especially in transition, and you're looking at a little bit of an old team, well, 12-8 is a deserving record. 12-9 is your deserving record, and yeah, we'll see if the Lakers. What the good thing about the Lakers situation is they have that opportunity to improve. They have 2 future first-round picks that they can trade. There's some pieces here and there that they can do some moving around. I think the Lakers have an opportunity to make something happen to make this team better than what it is right now. I definitely believe that. And I look forward to seeing if Rob Pelinka can make that happen. Showbreaker coming up. When we come back, we will discuss Bryce Young and his recent stint and whether or not that's an opportunity for him to earn a second life at Carolina.
Looking for your daily fix of sports talk without having to pay for it? GSMC Sports Network is available on YouTube. Just search GSMC Sports Network. Get your fix of daily sports talk shows on YouTube, absolutely free. NFL, college football, NBA, MLB, MMA, UFC, fantasy football, and so much more. GSMC Sports Network has shows running all day long, with new sports shows starting every 2 hours. Just like on your favorite cable sports channel, except GSMC Sports Network is absolutely free. Just search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube to catch one of your new favorite shows, like the GSMC College Football Podcast, Chip Shot Football Podcast, Hoops and Heels Women's Sports Podcast, GSMC Basketball Podcast, and so many more. Check it out for yourself. GSMC Sports Network, now available on YouTube absolutely free. Search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube right now.
Before the break, we discussed the Lakers' recent struggles. We move on to talk about Bryce Young. So, Bryce Young, he has had a little bit of a recent resurgence, to say the least. He returned into being a starter after Andy Dalton suffered a car accident that led, I believe, to a sprained thumb on the throwing thumb, something of that sort. Don't quote me on that. And it gave him an opportunity to return as the starter in the game against, I believe he returned the game against the Denver Broncos. And, that last game before, Andy Dalton did struggle. He won his, Andy Dalton got a win early on. I believe it was his first appearance of the season against Raiders. But since then, he really struggled, especially in that Panthers game. I believe he only, in that Commanders game, he only threw for 93 yards and 2 interceptions. Then the accident happened, and it gave Bryce Young an opportunity to return as a starter. And since then, Bryce Young has played some really good football, I have to say. The Panthers are 2-3 in that time, which is not great, but it's not horrible. They were 2-3 in that time, and then 2 of their 3 losses were really competitive losses down the wire against 2 really good teams, in my opinion. Against Kansas City, it took Chiefs a walk-off field goal to get past Bryce Young in the Panthers den, and against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, it literally went down to the wire in overtime. The Buccaneers won it on a walk-off field goal in overtime to get that one. And Bryce Young, he's played some really good football. What he was able to do in that Chiefs game, made some really good plays down the stretch, going up against a really good Chiefs defense. He was able to carve up 21 of 35, 263 yards, and a touchdown. You saw what he did against the Buccaneers as well. I was so impressed with the poise he had late in the game. Made some big plays late in the fourth quarter and in overtime. He made one really good play to Adam Thielen in overtime that it got them an opportunity to take a field goal to win the game, and then Chuba Hubbard fumbled. You can't blame Bryce Young for that. I thought Bryce Young did what he needed to do to lead the Panthers past the Buccaneers. He made the play to get them into field goal range. The Panthers hand the ball off to Chuba Hubbard to get a little bit more yards, and Hubbard, he fumbles the ball. Just the worst thing to do in that moment. A season-changing play, by the way, for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers as well. That was wow. That was a game, season-changing play. For the Panthers, is not that big of a stakes. But Bryce Young, not only did he make the play in the game tying drive, in fact, he led a game-leading drive. A fourth quarter should have been a game-winning drive. He made an amazing play to Adam Thielen, stepping up in the pocket, showing poise, making that franchise quarterback play to give them the lead with about 50 seconds to go. He gave them the lead. They were up 3. They were down 4. They needed a touchdown to take the lead. And then Baker Mayfield goes back the other way, get the Buccaneers quickly into field goal range, and it goes into overtime. Bryce Young in that game, he led 2 game-winning drives that should have been 2 game-winning drives. 1 game-winning drive gave them a 3-point lead with about 40 seconds to go. The Panthers defense did not do their job and seal out the game. And then he made the play to get them in field goal range in overtime to kick a potential winning field goal. Chuba Hubbard then on the next play or second play or something coughs it up. I think Bryce Young was well-deserved in a winning of that game and the Kansas City Chiefs game. You look at his performance as well. He hasn't been turning it over. He's played clean football. He hasn't turned it over in the last he hasn't turned it over in the last 3 games. He's only thrown 1 interception in the last 4. His quarterback ratings has been solid as well. 86.4 against the Giants, 92.9 against the Chiefs, 83.4 against the Buccaneers. You compare that to his career average QBR of 73.8. There's an improvement. We're seeing an improvement. And, with these young guys, sometimes, they just need that opportunity to make their mistakes and to not give up on them. We see the Anthony Richardson, since he's returned from the benching as well, I think he's looked a lot more promising. Look, with Bryce Young, his early struggles has always been something that I could not wrap my head around, because when I watched him at college, I saw a player that physically didn't have the greatest physical strength, not the tallest quarterback, not the biggest arm, but the intangibles, the decision making, the accuracy was all there. Everything that you wanted from a franchise quarterback, from a tangible perspective, from a reading the defense perspective, from a pure accuracy perspective, I thought it was all there. But it didn't translate. It didn't translate. I think the tangibles translated. I still see, I don't see any flaws with them in terms of the tangibles, but some accuracy issues, and a lot of it is being flustered. When you're flustered in the pocket and the confidence level is, you start getting tunnel vision, and you suddenly turn inaccurate, and you start overthrowing guys that are wide open. His pocket presence was really, really poor. Since he's came back, his pocket presence has completely changed it. And maybe that's what it takes to see a veteran quarterback, an experienced quarterback, getting to see him for a few games, really take the field and to really understand how a professional goes about it in the National Football League. A starting quarterback does it. I think it's done wonders for Bryce Young. And I'm coming back all the way to the trade where I never dismissed Bryce Young. I thought after that benching, he just needed to get the hell out of Carolina. It just wasn't the right situation for him. Wrong time, wrong place, and he deserves another opportunity somewhere else to, battle it out. But what he's done, in my opinion, I think he's done enough to earn that second opportunity with Dave Canales to really run that offense next season. And I think the chance to watch Andy Dalton has done some wonders for him, has done some wonders for his confidence as well. I think he's learning off him. I think Andy Dalton is also a good pro that's, is giving him his tips and tricks to play at the highest level in the National Football League. Yeah, I have to say, I love everything about Bryce Young, and I've never been able to wrap around his performances earlier on, and sometimes it's just a bad situation. And I still think Carolina is a bad situation, but I think that benching, or not the benching itself, but the fact that he had an opportunity to sit on the sideline and learn from a guy like Andy Dalton and to watch him play and to operate how he manages in the pocket. And I think that's been the biggest difference in Bryce Young's game. He's not getting flustered. He's not getting flushed out quickly. He's learning how to step up in the pocket when there's an opportunity to step up and buy yourself that little bit of more time. That led to the go-ahead touchdown down the stretch in that Buccaneers game to Adam Thielen. He's learning those little nuances in the game that changes. I think the confidence level is a lot higher as well. A combination of that, I'm really been impressed with Bryce Young of late, and I think he's earned that second life at Carolina. I really believe so. Short break here coming up. When we come back, we will discuss the Buffalo Bills cruising past the San Francisco 49ers.
For the best and latest podcasts available anywhere, go to the podcast app on your cell phone and type in GSMC to access free content-rich podcasts on health and wellness, book reviews, sports, entertainment, relationships, social media, movies, technology, finance, and even weird news. Subscribe and download the GSMC Podcast Network's family of shows, available everywhere podcasts are found.
Before the break, we discussed Bryce Young and whether or not he's earned a second life in Carolina. We move on to discuss the Buffalo Bills. They were able to defeat the San Francisco 49ers in a snowy, wintry type of game. Huge amounts of snow coming down in Buffalo. They dominated the short-handed San Francisco 49ers 35-10. And it was just a complete another domination from the Buffalo Bills. The Buffalo Bills remarkably were able to wrap up the division on December 1st, which is incredible when you think about it. You know, we're only 13 weeks into the season, and the Bills already wrapped up first place in their division, and hence also clinch a playoff spot. That's been remarkable. And in Josh Allen, he's continuing to make his MVP case, and with Lamar Jackson and that loss to Philadelphia, he has, I think Josh Allen has probably earned himself now the favorite for that MVP battle, and they're only one game behind the Chiefs for the number 1 seed. And keep in mind, they have the tiebreaker advantage because they beat the Chiefs a few weeks ago. So all is well in Buffalo, and the transition from the Stephon Diggs era to this new era that the Buffalo Bills have been going through has been very, very smooth. And Sean McDermott, brilliant head coach. Heard some nonsense talk earlier this season that he may be on the hot seat. Just shut up. Just shut up. This is a Sean McDermott. What he's been able to do at Buffalo has been remarkable. People forget it's not just the Josh Allen Bills that he created. When he first came in, he led a Buffalo Bills team that lacked a lot of ability. He led it into the playoffs with Tyrod Taylor starting as quarterback, and their number 1 receiver was Kelvin Benjamin. And their defense was a little bit aging with guys like Alonzo and then I'm forgetting not Alonzo. I'm forgetting the players on that defense, man. Oh my God, it wasn't Alonzo. It was the middle linebacker. Something. Man, I forgot. And then they had that one pass rusher. He played for the Bills for a really, really long time. The names are mistaken my hand, but it was a little bit of an age defense. It wasn't a great team. He got them into the playoffs as a 7th seed. Buffalo before then was poverty for a very long time. Or he got him in as a 6th seed, actually. 7th seed didn't get in at that time. And then they played the Jacksonville Jaguars in the first round. They traveled to Jacksonville, and then they got eliminated by the Jaguars. With that team, the Jaguars team ended up winning the AFC, reaching the AFC Championship. I believe that game was a low-scoring game. I think it was 10-3 or something. I know it was a one-possession game. Jalen Ramsey made the pick to win it. It was 10-3. The Jaguars win. By the way, 10-3 in a playoff game. What happened to that? That wasn't even that long ago, 2018. What happened to playoff games like that? Man, that was a great game. For me, at least, that's the kind of football I love watching. 2 good defenses going at it, or 2 bad quarterbacks going at it. Really, I'm not saying Tyrod Taylor's bad, but at a playoff level, Tyrod Taylor versus Blake Bortles, let's be for real, that's not a playoff caliber quarterback matchup. But getting a little bit off topic, what Sean McDermott has been able to do has been absolutely brilliant in transitioning through multiple eras now. He's been at Buffalo for a pretty long time, actually. Now I used to look at him as one of the young coaches in the league. Now he's a tenured coach. And in Buffalo, they continue to be dominant. They play some good, opportunistic defense. Offensively, we know Josh Allen, what he's able to do, the run game looks a little bit revitalized now under Joe Brady. James Cook was able to average 7.6 yards carry against this 49ers defense and completely manhandled them. Physically, the Buffalo Bills manhandled the Niners. And the Bills, they can win in multiple ways, and they're a very impressive team. And they're a contender in the AFC, despite the fact that I don't have that belief in them to get it done in the playoffs, because we haven't seen that in the past. In Buffalo, they tend to not be able to make that one play that it takes to get over the line year in and year out against the Kansas City Chiefs or the Bengals or so. And I believe we probably are going to get that again, despite how good Buffalo has been this season. As for the 49ers, the 49ers started off this game, I have to say, with that first opening drive, being able to force the Bills 3 and out, and then And then the 49ers offense was able to get all the way down the field, but had to settle for 3, as the 49ers offense has to do all season. The red zone offense has been atrocious, one of the worst in the league. And then the 49ers also got the Bills on another opportunity to go 3 and out again. And on third down, they get the stop, but pass interference, illegal contact on Travis Hoyer gives the Bills first down. And that could have been a big play. The Buffalo Bills going 3 and out on the first 2 drives. Niners getting the ball back at 3-0 with an opportunity to, further their lead. Maybe could have made a little bit more of a game than what it was, but that penalty happens, and then, the Buffalo Bills just doesn't look back from there. Just completely dominated the 49ers in the run game, just outclassed the Niners. The Niners really couldn't get anything going in terms of being able to stop that Buffalo Bills offense. I think offensively, the Niners was able to generate drives. They had that early drive where they had to settle for a field goal. They had that opening second half drive where they went all the way down, and then they fumbled it at the 1. More red zone woes. I thought the 49ers, as a team, offensively, they were able to get some production. They rushed for about 130-40 yards. They were able to move the ball down the field in certain moments, and it's difficult when you're playing in the snow and you have a Brock Purdy who was playing his first game since returning from that shoulder injury, and then throwing in the cold as well. We could see his throwing shoulder, and you could see when he was throwing the ball, that arm lacked any velocity. And maybe it's the combination of the shoulder and the snow and the weather, and it just makes it difficult. But from the moment get-go, we knew this was not going to be a big game for Brock Purdy, and it was a game that he was going to have to manage. And even with the fact that the Buffalo Bills were up big, early, Kyle Shanahan didn't let Brock Purdy air it out. He still only had 18 attempts, because it was just not he was just not going to be able to. He was just not going to be able to win the game with his arm in those conditions, with the way his shoulder was, and especially early on in that first half, I don't remember, Brock Purdy didn't even have to, it could have been, Brandon Allen playing, he wasn't even active, I guess, but it could have been Brandon Allen playing, and you wouldn't have even noticed, because the 49ers, they didn't throw the ball past 10 yards. It was a lot of handoffs. If they did throw the ball, it was a screen, maybe the occasional slant. But he didn't throw the ball much. George Kittle, he's been having an electric year this year. He only had 1 reception for 7 yards. Debo, he's washed. Let's just call it as it is. I don't even want to call him Debo Samuel anymore. This is not Debo Samuel. This is Tyshawn Samuel Sr. Debo is not there anymore. Debo's not, he's retired. We're in week 14 or something of the season, and he has 38 receptions for 531 yards. He can't break the edge the way he does. He looks like he's lost a little bit of speed, which is interesting because on kickoff returns, we see that explosiveness and that speed from him on kickoff returns. But when he's playing on that football pitch, when he's running the football or when he's catching, trying to break a tackle, we don't see that breakaway speed from him. We don't see that ability to break tackles like we've seen in the past. He's just washed. And I spent this earlier part of the season being angry at him for, at 28, just losing your way. But, we asked him to do a lot too early on. There is wear and tear that's been put on his body, essentially having to play 2 positions, and maybe he's just coming to fold. But, yeah, this is not Debo Samuel. This is Tyshawn Samuel Sr., and it's a shame because Debo was a great player, man. Great. That 2021 season will go down at least in my history book, will go down in history because he was a game changer and was overshadowed by Cooper Kupp's Triple Crown. But in my opinion, I thought with Debo, what he did that year, dragging the Niners into the playoffs, dragging them to the NFC Championship, I thought it was more impressive than what Cooper Kupp did in that season. But, Cooper Kupp won the Triple Crown, and he won I think he won MVP of the Super Bowl as well that year. So that'll go down as in the history books, probably the greatest season of all time from a wide receiver. But I still thought what Debo did was better. I thought Debo was incredible in that year. The fact that we don't have Debo anymore, we have Tyshawn. It's a shame. Jawan Jennings, again, he was, the most effective receiver. Didn't really dominate himself. He had that 3 receptions, 56 yards. But the one moment we actually pushed the ball down the field was to Jawan Jennings. McCaffrey, got injured early on. He was actually looked a little bit explosive. 7.6 yards a carry, and he was showing some really, really good signs. And then he ended up hurting that knee. Turned out to be a strained PCL. 6-week injury. Probably now out for the season. But the fact that, there's only 5 weeks left this season after this week. Looks like unless the Niners miraculously make the playoffs, we're not going to see McCaffrey again. And then the crazy alarming thing with this as well is Jordan Mason. He suffered a high ankle sprain as well. He's on IR, and a high ankle sprain, those are like 4 weeks injuries. That's going to take him out till the last game or 2 left of the season. And now the 49ers enter their last stretch essentially to save their season, where they're having to play playoff games week in, week out for the rest of the season. Extremely short-handed at the running back position. Trent Williams, his wife announced that his kid was stillborn. He had a stillborn twin. The other twin passed away early on in the pregnancy. So obviously that's a sad situation there. So we don't know his status. He's missed the last couple of games as well. Nick Bosa with the hip oblique. It just seems like these injuries are piling up. Fred Warner is playing with the injured calf or injured ankle as well. It seems like these injuries are piling up, and the season is falling apart. The 49ers have lost 3 in a row now, and they're fall to 5-7. Mathematically, they're still alive in the NFC West. The Seahawks are 7-5. The Cardinals are 5. The Cardinals and the Rams are 6-6. So they're still in there. They're only 2 games away from that division, and the Seahawks do have some difficult games to play left of the season for the rest of the season. But yeah, it just seems like the injuries have been too much, and it seems very similar to what we saw from the 49ers post the year that they reached that 2020 Super Bowl, in which the injuries getting to them, the team just not being as good as previous years. And yeah, it's unfortunate, and it's an opportunity now for the 49ers to get younger. This is a team, one of the older teams in the NFL. What I always loved about the Niners, especially early on the Kyle Shanahan era, is their physicality, and a lot of that has to do with the youth in the team. This team is just too old to play like that, a game in, game out, and that probably is a factor in the injuries as well. I think this is an opportunity for the Niners to get younger, to get off some of these older guys, like a Deebo Samuel, like a Deebo Samuel, really, that's the big one. Like guys like Kyle Juszczyk, Juszczyk really doesn't matter. He's just a fullback, and Juszczyk doesn't matter. But guys like Deebo, I think, I'm trying to think what other, some of the core guys some of the core guys are still important parts of the team. Like, should the Niners move off from Kittle? No. Then maybe McCaffrey is a candidate, with the fact that, he is 29 and running back shelf life, or he's 28 running back shelf life. I think the 49ers have an opportunity where they might think about taking calls for Nick Bosa. He's 27 years old. He gets paid a ridiculous amount of money. And he's one of the few players that the Niners have that have extreme value. This is a guy that could potentially go for 3 first-round picks. A player with that sort of value, you always have to look in the future as well with the Niners, in the fact that they don't have they have to pay Brock Purdy. They're going to have to pay him a lot of money as well. You need to start thinking about that. And yeah, John Lynch and Co. have a lot of game-changing decisions to think about. For me, there's no arguing that. But thank you guys, though, for tuning into the GSMC Dead Ball Sport Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. Your support means a lot to us, so please remember to subscribe to the show and leave a positive review. It really does make a difference. We also invite you to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram for more content and updates. So thank you once again, and have a wonderful, wonderful day.
Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day. Yeah, I'm tired of shit, and the coffee ain't